Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Anderson of, what is it? Bob Anderson Art! And I'm back today to continue explaining to you how I am putting these trees in front of these mountains, which are kind of in the mid-range. There are mountains in the back, further back, which are blue because they're further back. There's more atmosphere between your eye and them, so they've got more atmosphere. They're softer. The sky is reflecting the blue upon them. Then the mountains came up here, and I based them out really dark because there's no light showing through them. So yesterday I explained to you how I was taking a green chromium oxide, or excuse me, chromium oxide green. There you go. And I was mixing a little brown, a little black into it, and a little blue sometimes, and kind of creating the leaves, creating the same kind of look that these trees look like in the photograph, in this corresponding grid that's in magic marker on my photograph and has been reproduced here. So I'm making sure I'm looking at the photograph and creating the same look of the trees. But I start with the dark greens first and work up light on top of that. So I started putting the dark greens in here, as they correspond to the individual squares that are laid out in the grid. Now, I have to tell you that yesterday I am a bit of a space cadet. I've always been like that. Maybe it's a disease, maybe it's a mental illness. I call it just being a spacey artist. But while I was doing the demonstration and doing these little leaves and fern balls and everything up here, I found myself several times all of a sudden completely a million miles away. And then I suddenly came back and I realized, oh my God, I'm doing a video. I'm actually trying to explain to people how I'm painting this painting, and I just came from another reality. I don't even know how long I was gone. I could have been gone 1 year, 2 years, a million years, and suddenly I was back in this time frame, and I realized I was in the middle of a video, and I'm here alone. So, and to me, I didn't know how much time had elapsed, and I thought, oh my God, I should start over. Because I've got to explain this, but I thought, well, I've already painted this. I've got to stay with it. So I kind of went, a couple of times, I don't know if you noticed it, but a couple of times I kind of like laughed. And that was because I caught myself suddenly, oh my God, I'm doing a video and I'm explaining something, but my mind can be a million miles away. So that was really funny. So I kind of stopped, but I'm picking up where I left off. And again, so I worked some more areas up of these trees while I was not shooting. So I continued to do with the darker greens, going up, reflecting the same look that they have in the corresponding, rectangle on the grid. And I went all the way across and I went over to this dark mountain here and I continued doing the dark greens, the blue, dark blue greens, dark brown greens, dark black greens, and started creating all of this look that's in these corresponding quadrants or sections of my grid. And so I just continued on after filming and put a lot more detail in. Started bringing up then the medium greens that I put, more yellow in, a lighter blue, and started putting that on top, right where it exists in the grid. So that's how I'm creating these leaves on the trees. So what I'm doing is just continuing on. So now I've put the darker in here, and now I'm putting the lighter on because that's the way I do it. So that's what creates the look of the volume and the depth of the greens of the trees is by having, like the light shows here, there are certain boughs of the trees that are exploding in a light yellowy green because the sun's on them, and that's what you want to do. So now I'm putting this light green in here, little pucks, little points of green and light and little lines, whatever it looks like in the photograph. I'm trying to reproduce it on the canvas. But of course I'm going to the exact place where it is on the photograph, on the grid, and putting it over here. So, okay. So I'm doing that. I'm trying to stay in this reality, okay? Seriously. I thought that was so funny yesterday when I just went into another reality while I'm, digitally recording this. But that's me. Okay, so here I am back. I'm going to create, I'm adding now more of this light green. These are evergreen trees, but it looks like there's like a waterfall of green coming down here and really light color. So I'm going back and I'm putting even more light because it's really light in the photograph. And I'm kind of creating that look. It's really trees, but it looks like a waterfall of green because that's how the trees photographed in this image. So I'm just adding all these yellow greens in because these are the highlights of this. And that's what gives it that depth and punch. And I'll just keep lightening it up and lightening it up. Just adding more and more layers of detail. As I told you, it's all about layers of detail. Layers and layers of detail. That's what makes a painting, or what makes some paintings, very beautiful and interesting. Creates a lot of depth, a lot of interest. But that's not the only way to paint. As I've explained to you before, when you paint, it's your world, and you need to rock it out in your own way. But I'm just giving you ideas on how I paint and how I'm painting this painting. Okay, so again, I'm going lighter and lighter and lighter, just adding more and more lighter green areas on these evergreen trees, creating more depth, creating more interest, more detail. So, and there were a couple trees in the background which look a little crooked. I'll have to straighten them out, but they're a little bluish because there's more atmosphere between your eye and these trees. That's why they're bluer, because the sky's reflecting on them and making them a little more blue. And if it seems like I'm repeating myself a lot, it's because I am. Because when I'm learning, I need someone to repeat something to me. If I just hear it once, blah, 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 I don't remember everything. So I think it's important to kind of reiterate and re-emphasize things so that the person that's watching can understand better. At least that's what I hope, you guys. Okay, back to the painting. Hopefully I won't go into another world. Okay. Okay. So, all of these trees have deep, dark green aspects to them, deep, darker blue-green aspects, deep, dark brownish green aspects, and then it comes up with a richer greens, and then lighter yellowy greens. And that's what you want to catch. You want to make it look like the trees look in this photograph, because that's what I'm doing. That's my mission on this painting. Okay. Because these sun-drenched pine tree boughs are what make it pop. Really make it look like the sun's shining on them. And that's what I want to do in this particular situation. Hopefully, I will not go into another realm. I was down the street earlier explaining to a friend and a client that happened yesterday while I was filming the video, and we were both just laughing hysterically. And she said, "You should explain that." And so I thought, well, yeah, I don't know if it'll be funny when I explain it in the video. So anyway, I'm trying to make it funny. But it was very funny. Very odd. Okay, so now I'm just keep adding more and more little bits of detail in the lighter greens, and then I'm kind of going back and putting some of the medium greens back in. And sometimes you have to punch in a little of that darker green. Sometimes I take out too much of the dark, and then I realize I need to go back in and put a little more back in. I've lost some of the definition of the highlights and the shadows by making too much of it light. So I'll go back in and I'll punch in a little more of the dark to give that contrast. So it's kind of a process of going back and forth for me, anyway, to create the image that looks good. So anyway, that's it for right now. I'll see you later. Bye.